Dawn Sizer, the CEO of Third Element Consulting. We are a small MSP in South Central Pennsylvania. Day to day, one of the things that I have to do is take a look at a lot of the security services that we offer. So that's one of my responsibilities. I have a little bit going on in the HR realm, a little bit going on over here, over there. CEOs wear a lot of hats, especially in MSPs. I do travel a good bit. So I did come to see ThreatLocker for Zero Trust World this year, which was fantastic. And if you have not been out to Zero Trust World, you absolutely should. Not only you as a business owner should come, but anybody that you have invested in your company as one of your either up and coming security prospects or people that are actually running your security right now inside of your MSP should be at Zero Trust World every single year. Third Element's main verticals are municipal government, including law enforcement. Surprisingly, legal comes right along behind that. And strangely, cannabis is another one. So we have this weird circular kind of thing going on, but we also do other professional services like accountants and anything that runs service as far as that goes. We have some HVAC companies, that sort of thing. But yeah, our main staples and verticals are legal, law enforcement, and cannabis. It's a fun industry to be in just because it is growing so exponentially. But one of the other things is that the cannabis industry itself has a tendency to look at IT very differently than the rest of the landscape of anybody else that MSPs touch. And they look at IT as a POS system, and it's definitely not that. So introducing them to what real IT looks like and how to protect themselves has been something that we have been on the leading edge of in that particular industry. So our security stack is actually kind of like a lean, mean, money-making machine as far as we are concerned. We do the standards, we do the security awareness training, we do endpoint, we do managed detection and response, and then of course we use ThreatLocker. And as far as ThreatLocker goes, we are using the allow listing, the ring fencing, the elevation control, storage control. We're bringing in network access control this year, which we're very excited about. And we do use that little sandboxing piece as well, so that we can test out policies as well as applications before we allow them into an environment. ThreatLocker has some amazing resources for all of their partners, whether it's ThreatLocker's University, which all of our tech staff has gone through. In fact, I'm going through it myself right now. We are producing cyber heroes the same way that ThreatLocker does, which I think is actually very important for every MSP that uses the product to be able to do. ThreatLocker also uses a ton of marketing assets that we have access to as MSPs, as well as MDF funds and some other things that you have available. You should absolutely talk with your account manager because they do have some resources that I wasn't necessarily aware of, like printed resources, including a really nice short book to introduce to your clients to explain to them exactly what ThreatLocker does and why they should use it. We saw ThreatLocker first at a couple events, and I think we probably looked at it 2 or 3 times before we said, yes, this is absolutely something we want. Actually, that's not true. I think I looked at it one time and said, this is something we absolutely want. My CTO looked at it twice and said, yep, you're right. This is absolutely something that we want. If nothing else, we will sleep better at night. Clients may not be all that excited about some additional cost and what they might perceive at first as more limitations to what they can do with the network. Once they understood what the product was doing, they agreed wholeheartedly that having ThreatLocker in their network does allow the business owner to sleep better at night as well. And for the municipalities, they are so excited that they don't, or at least they aren't nearly the target because of ThreatLocker that they were previously. One of the big issues that any MSP faces is the question of, do I have enough security? And we look at, we have things on the endpoints, we have managed detection and response. However, what happens when something enters the network that either we weren't sure what it is, didn't know it was coming, and then what stops it? Is the managed detection and response enough at that time? Is it already happening at that point when it's caught? So ThreatLocker enters the mix at that point and says, hey, we have a product that actually can stop something before it gets out of hand. In fact, before it takes hold, before anything can actually happen, which is fantastic. One of the things that we looked at with ThreatLocker, and we had been looking for this particular thing for a while, was that elevation piece. And I know this is such a small piece of ThreatLocker, but having the ability to give that elevation to a user as they need to install something is absolutely great. Quite frankly, it takes a load off of our own people. It takes a load off of the client as well. So just being able to, as they requested, allow them to elevate for a period of time, or just be able to push out that particular app once the policy is deployed is really, really great. And it takes, again, time off of my staff that we don't have to either go out on site, investigate that particular piece of software, install it, make sure that it's done, elevate the user, have them reboot, they're back and forth for 5 minutes. So, you can see where this is going, but basically it really does take the time that it would have taken previously and cuts it down to just a couple of seconds. One of the biggest things that ThreatLocker does help us accomplish on the day-to-day, again, some of it is the allow listing, just to make sure that we have the applications that should be in the network and not the ones that shouldn't be. I know nobody else has problems with their users randomly, just installing things, but we did have that on request, and quite frequently, cops are one of those folks that, believe it or not, they want to install things a good bit. A lot of it is footage from the little quickie mart kind of things when they have an issue come up. So we'll be installing little video players and things along those lines. So that's one of the things that it solved for us on the fly. Once we had one type of software, we could spread it out amongst the departments as they needed it. We already had it as a policy, so we could do that fairly quickly, which was fantastic. One of the other things, though, is the ring fencing, to be able to say that, these things are really just allowed and the rest of them aren't, so that we can segregate them off so that we know these things aren't touching other programs and shouldn't be touching other programs, which again takes a little bit of time, effort, and energy up front, but pays dividends on the back end for our staff so that they're not constantly chasing down things inside somebody else's network. One of the biggest things that we have found with ThreatLocker is that occasionally we come up with a situation where either we don't know how to fix it, something doesn't seem quite right, and we just want another set of eyes on it. Typically with any other vendor, you would send in a ticket, maybe they'll get back to you today, maybe tomorrow, maybe it's a couple of hours. On average, it's been 15 to 30 seconds with ThreatLocker. So that's saying something amazing. And we actually did double check that, but on average, it's been about 17 to 18 seconds. When we implemented ThreatLocker, we talked to our clients ahead of time so that they knew what was coming. There was a little bit of pushback just from the standpoint of, we can't do, XYZ, or it seems like it's taking additional time, or everything I touch seems to need elevation, or we're pushing out, an update, whatever. Once they got over the understanding of exactly why we're doing what we're doing and why, like, here's how this will save you if something were to go wrong, all of the pushback went away. So it's all about educating your client and making sure they understand what you're doing, why, how it affects them, and how it can actually save them at the end of the day. It's real. We got pushback and we had to explain it a couple of times. In fact, I actually created it's a 10-15 minute kind of PowerPoint presentation that we went through that explained like castle, moat, that sort of thing, so that they understood, as you walk through the castle, you're going through different things. And, first thing you encounter is the moat monster. If you try to get across the moat, it eats you, that sort of thing. So that's how we explained what Zero Trust actually was and why you would want to use it. And once they got that through their head, it was like, well, that makes perfect sense, because if I set up a castle, that's exactly what I would want to have happen. One of the biggest achievements that we have seen in working with ThreatLocker has been the response we've gotten from clients after the fact. Even if it's just a testimonial, they really truly do understand that the amount of cybersecurity we have put into their business is there to protect them. So we literally just got a Google review from a client the other day that said that our security stack really is second to none, and they have seen a bunch of them. So I think that really does say something, that a client would actually go out, take the time and do a Google review to say, hey, this really is good. We really do believe in the product and what they're doing, even though, they may not know exactly what the product name is. We know it's ThreatLocker at the end of the day. So we have our business set up in Traction. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but so EOS runs this amazing thing called Traction. And inside of there, we set up every quarter to have very specific rocks or goals or milestones, whatever you want to call them, so that we're never trying to fight this boulder up a huge hill. We're just trying to get all of our rocks moved to the next location, which makes it a lot easier. So one of the things that we did for this year, one of our rocks, was to get QBRs set up with every one of our vendors that we do business with on a quarterly basis. And we did do that with ThreatLocker. We learn all about what products are coming out, what's going on. We talk to our account manager, we talk to our engineers, we talk to everybody that has their fingers in our account, and we make a very strong connection with our vendor. And that also allows us to hear all about the product, understand how it functions, and be able to sell it better into our clients and across new clients as well. MSPs face a lot of challenges on the daily. It doesn't matter whether it's cost hikes, people problems, I mean, you name it, we run the gamut of all of it. But one of the biggest things, one is the lack of transparency from some of the vendors that we have, the amount of ecosystems that are going on in consolidation. And what we have found with ThreatLocker is that you guys are extremely transparent, and we appreciate that very much. Not only with what your product does, how you do it, but also in the security that you're putting in it and your belief in the product. And I think that's really important. The fact that you're not part of some giant ecosystem or looking to be acquired, that kind of thing, is also very important to a lot of the MSPs that are out there, because it really does change the decisions that we make and the products that we use. One of the only products that I would recommend and wholeheartedly recommend to any MSP out there is ThreatLocker. So if you're looking to sleep better at night, make sure that your clients are completely protected before they get hit, ThreatLocker is really what you want to look at.